Hey guys, I welcome you to my first Microsoft SQL Server class, and in this class I'll be taking you through everything you need to know about Microsoft SQL Server as a beginner. SQL, you can call it, if you like, you can call it SQL. If you like, you can call it the structure query language. And SQL is a back-end database query language, and we use it for storing the storage of our data and managing of our data. We can still say, okay, querying out of our data. So we have a lot of things that we can use our SQL for. SQL is a very powerful database management tool. So we said we have other relational database management system, and in so many ways they are related to the SQL Management Studio. If you have your Oracle or your PostgreSQL, if you have even Microsoft Access, we use we use these tools for the storage and manipulation of our various data. So the SQL Management Studio, you can have some people who are going to have a different tool which is going to have a lot of relationship with the one that we are going to be using for this class. So it is only the syntax that are different. We only have difference only occurs in the syntax and the way you make some of your queries. So there is no need for you to panic or think maybe you are downloading or you are using a different a completely wrong tool. No, so all these two have something in common, a lot of things in common. It's just that they are some of their syntax are very different. Okay, so we have a database. So we said we use our SQL for the storage and manipulation of our database. What is database? What is database? So a database is an organized collection of structured information or data, typically stored electronically in a computer system. So if you have, for example, let's say you are a proprietor or you own an organization, then all of your staffs, there is need for you to have their information as maybe, for example, their name, their age, their date of birth, their where they live, their phone numbers, their email address. So these are called information. So the collection of all these together are called data. So to now have them in a way that it's going to be well structured, well collected, if you should have a field where you collect all the data, then you structurally, like you place it in a way that it is well organized. So in the organized collection of all the structured information or the data is what we know as the database. So in SQL, as far as SQL is concerned, we have the four major commands, or let me say the four commands in SQL. So SQL commands defines the way by which data are being stored or managed in SQL, and our four classifications. So we have the DDL, the data definition language, we have the DML, the data manipulation language, the TCL, transactional control language, and then we have the DCL, data control language. So one after the other, I'll be looking into what these commands, what they do, what we can use them for, and how we can go about making use of them in SQL. So the DDL, we said they are used to make changes in the structure, to the structure of the table, creation of table, altering table, and deleting a table. So if you want to, if you should have a database, we've already said that it is a collection of information, and to have a proper collection of information, it has to be in form of a tabular, like it has to be in tabular form. Number one, okay, this is so person. This is number one is Adeyemi Jamiu, phone number, the email address. So it is in form of a table. Immediately you have your database in a SQL. The next thing that you are going to be having is the creation of your table. You have to have a table where all your information or all your data are structurally compiled together. So we have the commands. So the commands in DDL, we have the create. If you want to create a table, you have the alter. If you want to make some changes to your table, we have the truncate to delete your table, to permanently delete your table, and then we have the drop. Let's say you after making a table, you've already created a table, then you feel like some of these the columns that are in your table are not necessary, so you can use the drop command to drop down the column. Then we have rename, if you want to like maybe give another name to your table, and then we still have add. Let's say you want to add another column to your table, we can still use the add command, add. So after that we have the DML. So we said the DML, these are commands for manipulating the data stored in the table and not the table itself. So if you can remember that in DDL we said we use DDL to make table, we can use it to create table, but in DML we can only use DML to make some to manipulate the data. Let's say we want to put some information in the data, or we want to make some changes, some simple changes in our table. So we use the DML commands. We cannot use it to create table. We cannot use it to let's say delete the table. We cannot use it to make changes on the table, but we can use it to manipulate the data that are in our table. So the commands in DML, we have the insert, we have the update, we have the delete, we have the merge. In insert, if you want to insert your data the way you have created your table and the columns, if you want to update some of those data, let's say somebody changes their phone number from a particular number that they gave to you when they wanted to start working with you or in your organization. Let's say after some time they now want to change, they want to they've already gotten a new phone and then they want to update their phone number. So use the update to update the data in the table. Then we have the delete. If you want to delete, let's say somebody is no more working with you, there is difference between the truncate. If you can remember, the truncate, we said we use it to delete a table, and then the delete here in DML is to delete some information, to delete some data in the table that you've created. We cannot use it to delete a table. Let's say you have a name of a particular person and the person is no more working with you, or the person is no more in your organization, so you can use the delete to delete out the information of that particular person. So after that we have the merge. So we use the merge to as the name implies, to merge information, to merge some data together. So to merge data together. And then we have the TCL. So the TCL, as you can see, we said these commands are to keep a check on the commands and their effect on database. So we have various commands for TCL. We have the commit, we have the rollback, we have save point. Rollback to get a data back to its original state. So we have a lot of we still have some commands on TCL too. We have DCL. It's a DCL, data control language. These are commands that we use to grant or take back authority from any database user. Let's say when you started working, you are the CEO of the organization, then you have a co-CEO, or let's say somebody that also have access, the same access that you have to the database of the employee in your organization. Another person has that same authority. So let's say the person is no more working with you, and then you want to revoke the permission, or you want to revoke authority so that the person will not have access to the database again. We use the DCL command to either grant, maybe you want to grant a new employee that you just employed, or you want to revoke from somebody that you do not need to have access to your database anymore. So we have data types in SQL. We have various data types in SQL. They say a data type is an attribute that specifies the type of data that the object can hold. We have the integer data, the character data, the monetary data. We have data type data. We have binary strings and so on. So for our character string, generally, either maybe you've used Excel before, or you've used any any coding tool before. String is a very popular character that we use. We use string for storage of alpha text that have to do with alphabet. And then we have the numeric data that has to do with number. We have the date and time for storing, or the storage of date and the date and time. And then we have the binary for binary strings. And the character strings data type, we have different type of them. We can see we have character, the data type here, and then the description, then the length of what the character number that it can take. We have the char to store characters. We have nchar to store Unicode characters. We have the varchar, which is the one that we are going to be using very often. We have the varchar store approximately n characters. When we have varchar max, depending on, let's say we are having a large number of information that you want to enter, then we have n varchar, we have n varchar max. So the same thing here for numeric data. We have the int, we have the tiny int, we have the small int, we have the big int, we have the money and so on and so forth. So you can go around and check through the type of the data type that we can have in SQL. Then we have the date and time data. So if you want to, it depends on the format, the kind of format that you want for your date and time, the way you want it to be stored. You can see the first one under the example. So what you can have there is, if you want to have your date and time in that format, I mean your date in that format, you can see it's only date that we are having there. So you can use that. If you want to use date and time to store both the date and then the time together, then you can use the date and time. The date and time to also stores it stores up to nanoseconds. So we can use that. We have date and time offset. So depending on the one that you want, the one that you want to use, depending on the type of information that you want to store. So you go around this and then play around it. So we have the binary data type too as well, which is we can have the bit depending on the type of data that you want to store. You have the binary, divide binary, divide binary max. So